All right, welcome to the broadcast. My name is Trevor, and today we are going to discuss how to reduce conflict in the workplace. And I'm a little nervous because this is my first live stream in about 5 years, and I have everything set up, so hopefully it's not going to go wrong. But I want to talk about this topic today. I want to share what I've learned from working in restaurants for close to 7 years and also years in the corporate world. A lot of my clients right now are HR managers, and I hear from them. I hear the challenges dealing with people, and I can relate from being a restaurant manager. Like, it's not easy to handle all the emotions of your team, not to mention you have like customers or guests who are complaining and have problems. So I'm going to be doing a lot of these live videos probably every Saturday, and I want to just I'm going to do some slides here. I was debating on if I should show some slides or not, but I do have a couple slides to go through just to kind of paint the picture and to kind of give you a story of this topic today. So definitely, if you want to, I guess, shoot me a follow on LinkedIn or YouTube. I'll be doing these live streams hopefully every Saturday morning. So what I'm going to do is I want to share my screen, and hopefully this will come up easily here. I hope you see that. And this is something that I'm really passionate about because I've seen, like I said, how difficult it can be to manage people, but also a lot of these conflicts at work, from my experiences, if we're able to address them early on, we can often prevent a lot of problems from getting worse, right? So a lot of times, whether I've been working at restaurants or in the different corporate jobs, I've seen these problems because what can happen is if no one addresses them and no one wants to make sure that there's no issues and no one wants to clear the air, essentially, they can get worse, and it lowers performance, leads to turnover, it leads to resentment from the team, from people. I don't know why this is cut off at the top there. But yeah, so I want to share, this is someone I've been studying, Daniel Goleman. He essentially is the father of this emotional intelligence topic. And there's two of his books that I've been reading. So I want to give credit where credit's due. This guy is really smart, and he has a lot of tangible things to do to work on emotional intelligence. But this is what it comes down to. And the problem is really that we're not taught in school how to handle our emotions, how to regulate ourselves, how to understand our emotions. And I believe it leads to a lot of problems in life. It leads to of course, you have the whole mental health aspect of it, but just a lot of conflicts, issues in life, I believe, can be solved if we just are able to learn through school, through our families, learn about our emotions and their purpose and the different types of emotions, and just how to like communicate how we're feeling and not get violent, not get aggressive. So I want you to think for a second before I get into the more of the slides here. I want you to think about, when was the last time that you got triggered, right? When was the last time you got triggered? And I want you to think about maybe what were you feeling? How did it play out? Maybe it was with a coworker, or it was with your family or your partner or something. And I want you to just think about, kind of like how maybe you lost control of yourself. Like, you lost control, you maybe reacted emotionally, maybe you yelled, or you freaked out on someone, or maybe you're by yourself, maybe you just got angry by yourself, or you got upset. Because I want to kind of show you right now a little bit of the brain and how this works when we get triggered. And I know for me, I'll just share that I have a toddler, I have a son, his name's Miko, and he's about a year and a half. And if you have kids, you understand, like, there's some times where you get triggered by your kids. And he's been teething the last few months, and there's been a couple, I'm not proud of this, but there's a couple times I've been kind of like looking back on the last year and a half with having my son, and then I was like looking back on the last little bit and seeing where I maybe could have done better as far as, staying calm and not freaking out, because I'm usually a pretty calm person. But there was a couple nights where, he's teething, and he gets up maybe 3 a.m. I got to feed him or nurture him, soothe him. And then it happens again at 4 a.m. And then there's one time where he got up like literally 3 times in the middle of the night. And the third time, I'm laying there in bed trying to sleep, and then all of a sudden I hear him on the monitor, I hear him scream, and I just lost my cool, because I wanted to get some sleep. This is like the third time in the last hour or two where he woke up I'm looking at the clock. It's like 4:30 or 5. I have to work in get up in 2, 3 hours. And that, I remember I got out of the bed. My wife was probably scared because I'm not very angry as a person, but I was triggered. I was angry. I remember went in his room, slammed the door. What do you want, man? I'm trying to get some sleep. Kind of yelled at him. And I'm not proud of this, but all of us have these moments in life, right? Where we kind of lose control of our posture and our voice. We say things we don't mean, or we say things that kind of are bad. And this is what happens actually in the brain when we become triggered. And you see the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. If you'll notice, the amygdala, it's close to the brainstem, which means it's kind of like an older part of the brain. And the prefrontal cortex is a newer part of the brain that's been developing. And this is kind of the battle in our brain, what happens when we become triggered. And so the amygdala is the part of our brain that responds very quickly. And if you think back to the past on this planet, we had to find our food, fight for our food. We had to be on alert for a tiger or something attacking us. And so this amygdala was that part of the brain that was the alert and the alarm system. When something was not safe, it was the part of our brain that says that pulses, and it says, watch out, there's a huge imminent threat. You have to act, you have to fight or flight. And this prefrontal cortex, however, is the part of our brain that it takes a little bit more time to process the stimulus of what's happening. But this prefrontal cortex is the part of our brain that can bring some more reasoning, and it can kind of give us a better reaction. So when my son was teething, he still is teething. I mean, he got up last night once, but when he triggers me, when it's really bad, my amygdala goes off. And then my job is to my prefrontal cortex's job is to come in and say, Trevor, your son, he's teething, he's in pain. He just wants to be held. He just wants some milk. He's a pain in the ass right now, but it's just, look at his perspective, and it's not life or death. It's not really worth getting so worked up about. But it's harder when you're sleep deprived and you just want to get some rest for a long day, for the next day. So a couple key points, like I said, this amygdala is quick to react. So when we're at work with our people, when there's a conflict, when there's emotions are high, this is the part of the brain that's reacting. The amygdala is quick, right? It responds before the neocortex, and this is the neocortex essentially. Neocortex and the prefrontal cortex, kind of the same thing. This front part of the brain, that takes some more time to react. The front part, the neocortex. So this is what happens when we're triggered. And like I was just saying, the prefrontal lobes, these areas of the brain use our thought. So where the amygdala is boom, instant reaction, the neocortex, the prefrontal side of the brain is gonna be like, wait a second, is it really life or death? And can I respond in a more appropriate way? But this takes a few seconds normally. And you look back in the day, there's mainly just a couple options. Do I attack? Do I run? Do I hide? Whatever. But now in this day and age, right, we have all these options. We can placate, we can persuade, seek sympathy, we can stonewall, we can provoke guilt, whine, put on a show, put on a false sense of strength. So now we have all these options, and the prefrontal lobe is the area of the brain that decides this. How do we react? What is actually the appropriate way to respond? And the way we can have this prefrontal part of the brain actually work for us is we have to practice this. We have to try to catch ourselves when we feel emotional, when we get triggered, when things happen, we get cut off in traffic, we have a customer say something to us that triggers us, or guests, whatever it is. We have to try to slow down and catch ourselves, catch our emotions, understand how are we feeling. And it happens so fast, it's not easy. And this is why I want to share a lot more about these topics, because it's not easy to catch ourselves when we're emotional. Our emotions are so powerful. I remember there's one time when I was managing a restaurant in Sedona, Arizona, This is at the end of 2023. My last restaurant actually was in Sedona. And I was with the philosophy working at restaurants that the guests are very, very important because they pay the bills and they pay the team. So the guests need to have a good experience. They want to have fun. They want to have a good time. It's our job to put on a show for the guests and make them feel like they're kings and queens. But with that being said, my philosophy was always putting my team first, putting my servers, my kitchen staff, it doesn't matter who it is, dishwashers. I always thought the team comes first. That's how I led as a manager. And there was one time where I remember we opened at 4 o'clock most days at this restaurant. We had a little back patio, and sometimes guests would try to come in through the back patio to be seated before 4 because they're so anxious to get some drinks and to sit down and get their seat. And what happened was one day someone came in, it was like, I think it was about 3:40. So he was about 20 minutes early. And our servers are all getting ready. We're already a short staff as it is. And our servers work really hard. They bust their butts all around the restaurant. So they were kind of getting ready, prepping for the night. And I remember it was like 3:40, 20 minutes early. This guy came in the back patio. And I go out to him and he says, "Hey, can I sit down? Can I have a drink?" And I said, "Listen, I'm sorry, sir. You're just a little bit early. Give me about 10, 15 more minutes. I'll let you in. You'll be the first one in to grab a drink." And he was furious at me for not giving him a drink early. And he wanted to sit down on the patio and have a drink. And I kindly said no. And his reaction to me, I never forget that he was so angry. He was screaming in my face and like spitting with his, like, while he was young, like his words, he was spitting at me essentially with his like mouth, like the stuff's coming out of his mouth. And he was so furious. And I thought he was going to punch me in the face or like hit me or something, but he didn't. He's saying, this is ridiculous. I'm going to call, he's like, "I know the owner. I'm going to give him a call right now. You're going to get it. You're going to be in big freaking trouble. I'm going to show you." And I was just like, wow, like this is a grown man. This dude's like 50. He's a grown man. He's freaking out on me because he can't sit down for 10 more minutes because he's way early. Now, I could have just sat him down, gave him a drink, and it might not have been this huge thing, but I wanted to have my servers back. It wasn't time yet. It wasn't time for them to be hustling around yet. They had a few more minutes to get ready for the night, for the shift. So my point of that is that if I stayed calm, but if I would have reacted like he did, if I would have matched, if my amygdala also would have went off and I would have matched his anger, that's how like violence and things happen, is when both people are at that level of the triggeredness, I guess you could say. I kept calm, but he did not. If I would have matched him, we could have gotten into a fight. It could have been physical altercation. And that's how things happen when we see things in schools, or we see violence, we see even like shootings and fights and things that happen that get very intense. It's because both people have this reaction, they get triggered, and their amygdala, their brain kind of gets taken over. And actually what happened was this guy did call the owner, and apparently he was a friend of the owner. And then the owner called me, and then it was just, I kind of got yelled at, and it was kind of this whole thing. But for me, it was just a learning experience that it doesn't matter how old someone is, people that are adults can still have the emotional maturity of a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old. And because our emotional growth can get stunted when we go through certain experiences in life. Things happen to us that kind of stunt our growth, and we remain a little kid in certain aspects of our emotional life. So I'm sure you can relate to certain experiences where maybe you had a customer like that experience, or you had someone just really get triggered at you. Maybe it was in traffic, someone gave you the bird. This is what happens. It's the amygdala that's doing this. All right, so this is the thing, is that like I said, the neocortex reaction is a little bit slower. So we have to try and buy a couple seconds when we get triggered. We have to try to slow down. The great way to do this is with our breath. We can try to center ourselves. We can try to put our awareness on our breath and our chest, put the awareness on our body, and just slow down. Take a breath. And this is not easy, but this is how we can avoid some conflicts getting, very intense, is that we have to catch them immediately and have the awareness of our emotions. There's more circuitry that is used in the neocortex part of the brain, so it takes some more time. The neurons have to fire. It has to process what we're seeing, what we're hearing, all the senses go into our brain, and then the neocortex is the part that is going to be able to say, hey, let's respond this way, right? Let's slow down. Let's keep it cool. It's not life or death. Let's just chill and let's communicate and react and respond from that place of groundedness. So how this relates to business, we have the corporate ladder here, just a little illustration. And I want to apply what I just shared to more of the corporate world. These problems are going to happen. All of us are going to have conflicts and problems. It's just part of life. The responsibility of the leader, of the CEO, of whoever's in charge, the owner, is to create a safe space for everybody. And from my experience, what can happen is when you have these problems, these conflicts happen, this can be an ongoing thing where maybe a manager or a director or even an employee, maybe somebody has this kind of ongoing theme of getting triggered emotionally. This could be a recurring pattern in an employee, a manager, a leader on your team, right? You as a leader, you could have a manager, you could have someone below you that has trouble emotionally regulating. I've seen it. It's just all of us have different things we're working on. But when these things go unaddressed and we don't know about them as the leader, as the CEO, if you don't know about these problems or just these patterns of behavior from your managers and your people below you, it's a big issue because you might have turnover, you might have low performance, you might have negative online reviews or comments, negative feedback. These things all come from us as the leader not knowing about these issues and these patterns. So as an example, maybe there's a manager who is not very emotionally intelligent, not really able to regulate themselves very well. And maybe there's problems that keep happening with a manager and employee, and the manager gets triggered and the employee is not really sure how to act. They feel unsafe. They feel uncomfortable a lot because the manager just freaks out on them or freaks out on the team. And then all the employees are scared to speak up and they don't want to share any ideas or share any things to improve, ways to improve things. They're just going to be quiet because they're scared and they don't feel safe. And there's not much trust there. And then the director, the VP, or the CEO, and they're wondering why the employees are having low performance and why the employees don't care. They're all checked out. Well, maybe it's because how they're being treated. And maybe we're not able to see as the top leader, perhaps we cannot really see what's happening down below on the ground floor. This is the things that I've seen at restaurants is you have the restaurants, this would be more like owner, general manager, bar manager, maybe you have a server manager, server lead, and you have everybody else, servers, dishwashers. What can happen is you go into a restaurant and the owner and the GM are talking at the top, right? Owner and GM, and the owner's saying, how are things going? GM saying, oh, it's all going great. Like we're going great. Numbers are good. Everyone's rocking and rolling. But then if you were to go down to ask the servers or the dishwashers or the bussers at the bottom, they might have a different story to tell you. They might be having a bad experience. They might be not being listened to. They might want to have things done a different way. There's a disconnect between the top, the general manager, and the rest of the team. And the rest of the team might be too scared to voice what's happening because they don't want to get fired. They want to keep their job. Maybe the manager does what I was sharing. Maybe the manager reacts emotionally very strongly. So people are scared. People are scared to speak up because they don't want to get yelled at or they don't want to get ridiculed or made fun of or whatever. So we have this huge disconnect. And this can happen on big companies where you can lose that awareness of what's happening on the ground floor. And the ground floor is where your team is interacting with the customers. So it's very, very important. So we cannot, listen, I went to school for numbers. I love math. I used to love calculus and doing equations and studying all day long. And I know how to go over a P&L like the back of my hand. It's not hard to look at numbers and to say how things are going. But what's more challenging is finding the root cause of those numbers. If numbers are low, maybe it's a people problem. Maybe it's an emotional problem. Maybe people are not feeling safe. Maybe they're not feeling inspired. Maybe they don't trust their leader or their manager. We don't know what's happening unless we're willing to go to the ground floor and show people we care. Don't just go in there and ask them and say, how are things? Like, show them that you care by getting to know them about their personal life, what their big dreams and goals are for life. Do they have a family? Do they have kids? Do they, I used to tell my guys at the restaurant, like, I realized at the restaurants, a lot of people, their goal is not to be at restaurants for their whole life. They want to do other things. They want to pursue a different career. They want to be an attorney, or they want to be a doctor. Or they want to go to business school or medical school. So I would tell my guys that, especially the guys that are young, the high school guys and that are dishwashers or bussers or whatever, I'd tell them, like, listen, guys, I know you don't want to be at this job and working at restaurants for your whole life or even for a few more years. I know it's probably a short-term thing for you. And I would try to find out what those guys did want, guys and girls, what they did want out of life. What was their real goals? What was their real big dreams they had for their futures? And when you can find that, and you realize that Timmy on the dishwasher, I don't know why I said Timmy on the dishwasher, you realize that his goal is to be a soccer player. Whenever I see him every week, I'm going to be saying, yo, Timmy, how's soccer going? How's your kick? I wouldn't say that, but I'd be trying to nurture that inside of him and tell him, like, dude, that's possible for you. Like, you can do whatever you want. I know you're here at the restaurant now, you're scrubbing dishes now, but it's just a stepping stone. And then when I was real like that, when I was real to my team like that, I could just tell that they began to trust me more. They began to play harder for me because I actually cared about them. And then if there was issues, they would tell me because they felt safe with me. If people don't feel safe with you or your managers, they're not going to speak up. And we're just not. I went to business school. We're not taught this in business school. We're not taught about how to create a safe. I know it's cliche, the cult, creating a positive culture and this and that, but it's really about safety. It's about having a vision for the team, a common goal, and having fun too. So what can we do? This is all great, but what are some practical things we can apply to our team and our business that can address this? Well, one of the things that we can do, one of the things I did at one of the restaurants was I sent everybody an anonymous Google form that they could all fill out. And I had just maybe 5, 6, 7 questions. How are things going? What do you like about the restaurant right now? What could we improve? Anything else I should know about what's happening? When you ask for feedback and it's not anonymous, so people know, when you can tell who's giving what feedback, they might not tell you the full truth because they don't want to say anything bad, and they don't want to know it was them who said it. So when you make it anonymous, people can submit their feedback and they can know that it's not going to go back to them, like trace back to them, but they're still going to feel good expressing how they feel. And then you can get all this data. You can have all these forms filled out, just quick Google forms, and you can go through them and you can look for some commonalities, look for some themes. Are people saying the same thing? And if so, it's probably a problem that should be addressed. It should probably be looked at deeper. It's just a great way to make everyone feel heard and feel seen. When people don't feel heard, I remember there was a restaurant that I worked at in my hometown, and I was just a server at this time. This is probably 2020, or maybe 21. And me and the GM had a very different styles of leadership. He was someone, after the shift, we had this big group chat on our phones, and he would be texting everyone saying, tonight was not good enough. We need to get better. We must be better for tomorrow. This is not acceptable. And like all caps and exclamation points and just going off on the team. And I was someone who thought that was not very effective. I was trying to just, when someone did something good, I would just be like, yo, that was awesome what you did there. Nice job. And we had different styles of communicating. This was during COVID too. And he was someone that was very, very, I guess, had to wear the mask, had to, all that COVID stuff. He was really about it. And I kind of I thought some of that stuff was kind of a little bit of a some of that COVID stuff I think was kind of not really truthful as far as what happened in COVID. But anyway, different leadership styles, different styles of managing. And maybe this feedback from the team, maybe after getting the feedback, we can tweak some things. Maybe having this feedback, which is like data, having this real data from the team perhaps we can use that, go to our managers, go to our people and say, hey, we're hearing this. Can we maybe just tweak how we're behaving with people, tweak our management style? And of course, aside from these feedback forms, what else can we do? Well, we can train our people. We can install trainings, ongoing trainings for everybody, or at least for our managers, right? At least for our people who are in charge. Emotional intelligence. I mean, it's all out there. Nothing's hidden anymore about how to be more regulated, how to develop more empathy, how to understand our emotions and be able to communicate in a more of a grounded, calm manner. People feel how you feel, or people always feel how we feel. So if you have a manager who is always getting emotionally triggered, they can't control their emotions, they're always spewing onto their team, people can always feel that. And it's not always talked about, but energy is contagious. And maybe these managers, maybe your manager who's freaking out a lot, not freaking out, but maybe managers who get very triggered, who knows what it could be? It could be stress at home. It could be stress with their marriage, stress with their kids or their family. Like, a lot of these personal things affect our business, of course, affect how we perform at business. But we have to just have these conversations, right? With our team, especially our managers, and we have to understand that there's things we can do. Like, there's not emotional intelligence. This can always be developed. There's no limit for how old you are, and it caps like people say your IQ is limited after a certain age or whatever. Emotional intelligence, not the case. This can be developed our entire lives, and it should be. So the main point, a lot of business problems are people problems, emotional problems. If we can find the root cause of these problems and address them and just make some small tweaks, we can see an increase in performance, an increase in retention, less conflict, less burnout, right? And these things all lead to bottom line profitability. All these things translate to metrics, to numbers, to profit at the end of the day. But because we're not really valuing these things, we don't understand that a lot of the numbers gaps and things being low in the P&L, it comes from a lot of these people issues. You need to teach emotional and social skills to managers for top performance from the staff. All right, solution, gather transparent, anonymous feedback forms from all levels. Extremely valuable to do this at your team, with your team. And of course, EI skills training for managers or all staff. Right, I'm going to be sharing a lot more about these topics. The last few things I have here, this is going to be a future video. Masculine and feminine dynamics. All of us have both energies. This is a little more advanced than what I just shared, but I'll be covering this soon. All of us have both. All men have masculine and feminine energy within them. All women have both as well. Some people have more developed masculine side, some more feminine side. All of us have both sides. How can we develop these sides of us to be the strongest we can be in life and business and communicating? Both are important, right? And lastly, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, is the Scale of Consciousness by David Hawkins. If we can help our people go up, not to the very top of this chart, enlightenment, okay, that's going to be hard to do, maybe, right? Peace, joy, but can we get our people to go up on this scale? If we can, we're going to lower the conflicts at our business, on our teams. We're going to have more synergy, more chemistry, more fun. We're going to be vibing. We're going to be having a good time. And that leads to results. It leads to happy customers, happy owners, happy CEOs. And this is a very powerful tool I'll be sharing more about in the future. All right. So hope this video gave you some value. Hope this live stream was cool. I'll be doing a lot more of these going forward on my LinkedIn, on my YouTube. So definitely subscribe and follow me down below or on my page there. Thanks for watching, my friend. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Take care.